everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
Welcome back to the show, now with 30% more video game discussions, now that Dan Torrey is my regular co-host on Geeks Not Nerds. Today we're going to talk about the future of Nintendo, with the NX, or whatever it's ultimately going to be called coming out here in maybe the next year, maybe beginning of next year. We're not really sure yet when it's going to be released. There's a lot of interesting things to speculate about with what is going to ultimately happen with this company, what exactly that system's going to look like, what they're going to be doing with their portable stuff, especially now that they're going to have like apps on phones and stuff, and with what they'll be doing with their regular franchises, and hopefully creating new IPs and things. So Dan and I will be exploring today the situation Nintendo is in right now, and what we think they're going to look like in the future, and what they need to do to really pull out of the rut they're in right now with how badly Wii U has been selling. Dan and I have been talking about this a lot lately. Like not on the channel, and we keep saying we should probably do a video on this. So we've actually made this video like 3 times, and this will probably, now being the 4th time, not be near as good as those conversations. But we will do our level best. Why don't you get us started, Dan?
Satoru Iwata, who was the president of Nintendo, passed away unfortunately, and we got a new president, Tatsumi Kishima, I believe is his name. And the conversation that me and you had, it sparked over an article I had read about the first investor meeting he was at. And he was saying that he wants to increase company profits from $208 million, which was the last year, to $885 million over the next fiscal year, which is, that's insane. Nintendo had been operating in the black. They weren't a profitable company for the first time in a long time. And, I don't know, they said in the black. I'm not up on my financial terms. I don't know if exactly that's hemorrhaging money, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
They weren't doing well is the point. And
$208 million doesn't sound like very much when you're Nintendo.
For a company like Nintendo.
Yeah. And
the Wii U in October of 2015 just passed the 10.7 million units mark, which was 100,000 more. It was the Dreamcast was at 10.6 million. That was the lifetime sales of that. So the Wii U just recently surpassed that. I imagine they sold more over the holidays. And just to compare that to the PS4 and the Xbox One, at this point, Sony has released that they have sold 35.9 million PS4s, and the Xbox One, they don't release concrete numbers, but the estimate is 18 million. And those two systems have had 1 less year on the market than Wii U. So Nintendo's not doing very well, and 2016 is shaping up to looking like it's going to be a really crucial year. There's a lot of rumors about the system is beginning to be manufactured, which signals that they're probably going to reveal it at E3 and release it by holiday 2016, if not early next year. 2016 is also the 30th anniversary of Zelda, Metroid, and the 20th anniversary of Pokemon. So it's a big kind of crucial year for Nintendo. The new Zelda is supposed to come out. And they've been expanding their IP into various other things because their hardware game console sales haven't been doing well. They signed a Universal theme park deal, so there's going to be Nintendo attractions at Universal theme parks. There was the rumor about the Zelda Netflix show, so Nintendo's shaking things up a bit, and they're starting a mobile game business on phones and things. So their business model is changing exponentially. And I think it's just 2016 is going to be a really interesting year for them. If the console launches and it's a failure, I don't know what's going to happen. The company's in kind of a state of limbo. What do you think?
The big question for me is, if the console launches and it fails, is Nintendo done in the hardware market? Or at least are they done in the home console market? And can you imagine a world where Nintendo's not making home consoles?
I can't imagine it. Now, the NX is really interesting because all of the leaked patents and moves the company has made point to the fact that it's going to be a hybrid of a console and a handheld at the same time.
Yeah.
So that you're going to be able to take the controller with you and play games on it on the go, and then come home and play it that way. The big reason I think that's probably the case, not even the leaked patents, but Nintendo did take their hardware or their software or developing departments, the console division and the handheld division, and combined them. They were previously separate, and now they are the same. All those people are all working together. So I think that's a sign that they're kind of trying to consolidate their business into one device, which I think is smart.
Here's what's weird about that, though. My question is, if they're still putting out games for the 3DS for the foreseeable future, which they've said they're doing, like Past in X, I don't know if you read that article, but they've come out and said that they wanted to kind of console everybody and say, don't worry, we're not going to stop 3DS anytime soon, because with those rumors, and they've not confirmed or denied that the hybrid console thing is exactly what they're doing, but it sure sounds like that's what they're doing, and they felt the need, and I think this also somewhat corroborates that that's probably what it will end up being, because they felt the need to reassure everybody that they weren't going to stop making games for the 3DS. I don't understand having both. Or how long they'll have 3DS. Like, maybe they just mean for the next year after that or something, and they're just not saying. But like they're acting like, oh no, it's still going to have a much longer life beyond that. But my question is, might that drive the sales of that console down? Because nobody that's buying 3DS games right now, and of course the 3DS has been selling remarkably well, and it's kind of the thing that's kept their company afloat, really.
It's selling well, but not nearly as well as the DS did. Sales
really?
Are down compared to the DS, very much so. And I'm very skeptical about that article, because they said the same thing about the Game Boy Advance when the DS came out, and it dropped off despite.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, if there's reason to think that might not be completely true.
I would like to take them at their word, but they have a history of doing these kind of things where they say, oh, we'll support it, but it's like basically third parties that still have games that are supposed to come out that they put out. It's not like Nintendo's going to be making first party exclusives for the 3DS for the foreseeable future. They're
not going to keep putting out stuff for their big properties. Yeah.
Right. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I am very, very nervous about the future of them. I want Nintendo to stay in the hardware business, because I think their hardware is usually very innovative. They take a lot of risks with their hardware. I just love Nintendo because it's a company that just throws crap at the wall and sees what sticks. And a lot of the time they hit, but recently they haven't been doing very well.
Dan, I think this would be a good point to go down the list and talk about what things that system has to have in it and has to do in order to compete with the current generation. Because obviously the whole point of putting out another system, this looks kind of premature. I mean, we've never seen this, right? Where a company has put one out this soon after the latest generation has started, and this early before the next generation will start. So this is Nintendo finally catching up. Every system going back to 64 has been behind in one way or another. Was really impressed with Nintendo back in the day for being able to make a system still on cartridges that had graphics that looked like what we previously thought you had to use a disc in order to do. So like they were innovating even with the stuff that they were making us still use. But I mean, like then you got the GameCube, and they were those mini discs, and you couldn't play DVDs in them like you could other systems, and then the list goes on. And obviously when you get to the Wii, it's really clear, where they were behind, and then at that point, they're also really behind in the graphics department, and that's been kind of the big problem lately. So let's go ahead and talk about what things they would need to do, and maybe let's start at graphics. Obviously, the specs are just going to have to be as good as what we're playing with PS4 and Xbox One, yeah?
I think the graphics is a good place to start, because that in tandem starts a discussion about software development, and I think the tech has to be just as good, if not better, than Xbox One and PS4. I mean, that's a no-brainer. You're going to have a system that's, one, easy to develop for, and two, a system that can handle the games that third parties are making for the other two systems, because you want to be able to draw third-party support and compete. Nintendo with the Wii U made the Nintendo machine. It sold 10.7 million units worldwide. Even though Mario Kart 8 is a 50% attach rate, which means that 50% of the people that own the system have Mario Kart 8, which is astounding. I mean, that's a really good attach rate for a console. That's not a viable business model. So you need to attract third-party support. Now, Shigeru Miyamoto has talked about Nintendo's struggles with HD game development with the Wii U, and he said that the software developers at Nintendo entering this game so late, they don't have the experience working with this tech, and they don't really know how to make games like the third parties and first party from Microsoft and Sony do, because those games are so much bigger. There's been so many innovations that they just haven't been able to make games like that because their tech has been so behind for so long. So it worries me that, like, the new Zelda that's coming out is their first shot at an open world game. This is the first big, completely open world game that Nintendo proper has ever made. I hope that game's very good, but it worries me moving forward if, like, Nintendo doesn't get third-party support and they're not able to put out their first-party exclusives as frequently as even they had in the Wii U. I mean, like, the Wii U is finally getting the Zelda that we were promised at the very end of its life cycle. That's kind of worrisome. So I think what Nintendo really needs to do is to get some new talent in there, hire a lot of people if they can afford it. I mean, that's always the question. But I think they need some new blood and some new talent that knows how to do these kind of things. They're a very insular company. That's kind of how I've heard the culture in Japan is with corporations like Shigeru Miyamoto. It has been a big software developer of the company, but Satoru Iwata, the former president of the company, is really unique in that he was the first person not part of the family that started that company to be president of it. And that company started in, like, the 1800s.
Yeah, right. A lot of people probably don't realize that, but I mean, like, they were making board games and card games before they were ever making video games.
Yeah, I've heard, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I've heard corporate culture in Japan is very insular, and that's why they don't like to get a lot of people that aren't already working in the company to come work for them.
But the problem is they're competing on stuff that they don't have enough experience on, so they look amateurish, and it's like trying to build something from the ground up when these other companies just already have that ability and that experience. It's got to make you worry, Dan, that open world Zelda game is going to be buggy, yeah?
Well, they delayed it. It was supposed to come out holiday this year, and they delayed it, and I'm very thankful they did, because it sounds like they just weren't ready to put it out, or maybe they wanted to put it out for the 30th anniversary of Zelda. I mean, I don't know. It could be any number of reasons. But, I mean, you can't, on the flip side, deny that Nintendo's software they put out is always of pristine quality, and with all the games that have been coming out this year specifically, or the past year specifically, that have been buggy, broken, need patches months after the fact to even play.
Yeah.
Nintendo, that's something to commend the company for. So I'm not saying that there's all negatives here.
Sure.
But I think in the interest of competition, they're going to need to do something to address that.
Yeah. One thing that I can really say for them is at least this last year they've tried putting out some things that are not just the IPs they've had already, and they've been trying to compete with still a lot of family friendly stuff, but stuff that you hadn't seen before, and mixing things up a little bit with Splatoon and Shovel Knight specifically.
Yeah. And Shovel Knight was an indie game developed by an independent studio, and that's on other systems too, but specifically Splatoon.
Oh, I didn't realize that was Shovel Knight. Yeah, we are. I am out of my depth on this on the video game conversations. I'm doing my best, but I don't know nearly as much as you do. So just in case anybody's wondering, Dan is the closer to an expert on this subject than me.
Yeah, closer to, and I'm certainly don't know anything about coding games or anything. So,
but yeah, you got Splatoon, and I mean, like, there hasn't been a whole lot of other stuff that's brand new. They've been putting out things of properties that they've had long running franchises for a long time, but I was a little bit surprised that this late in Wii U's life and about to end it, that they were putting out anything that was original.
Yeah,
so that's cool.
Too, and they've been supporting that game, putting new maps, new weapons.
Oh, really? Cool. Yeah.
People have been really excited about the free DLC Nintendo's putting out, and that's kind of unprecedented, given how paid DLC is such a big thing.
I think. Yeah. Well, let's get into that now then, and we should get back to the whole third-party developer thing, because I'm really curious as to what you think about what kinds of games they should be putting out on that system. But let's for a minute talk about the online thing, since you went there. And I'm gonna throw this out there. I think the best thing Nintendo can do to compete with those other two systems, because they're so online heavy and DLC is such a big deal, and a big money making gimmick lately is sell kind of the bare bones of a game or sort of a full game, but then sell a season pass and try to get you $100, $110, $120, and try to make everybody buy a copy by not having couch co-op and stuff. I think that what Nintendo should do is continue offering their online free and continue putting out free DLC and simply have way better online than they ever had before, because their online's not that good. So if they could have online that was competitive and free, that would sell a lot of consoles.
I think it would too. I don't know if that's cost effective or...
I don't know if it is either, yeah.
In a perfect world, if Nintendo could have an online system that was free and competitive, I mean, obviously, consumer-wise, that's the better option. But I think part of the reason why those services charge money is because the services are premium, and you do get perks like free games and things like that with the Xbox Gold and PS4, whatever they call that, PlayStation Plus, I think.
That's because there's no overhead, right? Like, they can give you a free game, and besides bandwidth, they're not really, out anything.
Right. I mean, I think, if anything, Nintendo just needs to figure out online.
Yeah.
Because their online services for the past 2 generations have been deficient compared to Xbox Live and PlayStation Network.
Well, let me suggest this. I mean, like, I'm again, it might not be cost effective. I don't know if I'm right about that. But PS3 managed to get away with free online during its entire run.
It did, yes. But its service was completely inferior compared to Xbox Live during that time.
Yeah, and now it's pretty good.
Down all the time, like people's information got hacked. That was a big scandal.
Right.
So, I mean, it would depend on what is feasible for them.
Okay.
I think one of the other things they need to do, correct the mistakes from the Wii U, is launch with games. They need a stellar launch lineup. I think the reason why Zelda was delayed to 2016 is because that's going to be a launch title for the NX, and that's not a bad place to be in. Launching with a Zelda game, I mean, that's one of their marquee IPs, one of the most popular and iconic franchises in all of video games. That's not a bad place to be in. But I would also say the mainline Mario Studio and Retro Studios have been very quiet for a while. Mm-hmm. I would not be surprised if in the launch window, maybe not like right when the console comes out, but maybe like a month in, we get a new Retro Studios Metroid game, and we get Mario Galaxy 3, because the Nintendo president did say, he let slip in an interview that the Mario team is working on a Mario Galaxy project. We don't know if it's a collection of the first 2 games, or if it's Mario Galaxy 3. Either one would be fine with me, but as long as we launch with a big 3D Mario game in the upscale graphics that we expect from Xbox and PlayStation, I think that would drive console sales.
I'm going to slightly disagree with you and say that as much as I understand why you'd say it'd be cool to have either of those 2 things, just doing a collection is not going to sell consoles. Like it's not going to sell enough, don't you think? I mean, like they need to launch that either with a brand new Mario Galaxy, or they need to launch it with like the next. If they launch that system, it's early. So maybe this would make more sense to say if it was like 2 or 3 years from now. But if they launched that that system with a Mario Kart, I mean, like they need to do something that big, like a franchise like that a lot more people are going to buy. Because like Galaxy 3, yes, but like Galaxy and Galaxy 2, I don't know. We've already had those. Like that would be like PS4 launching with a God of War collection and thinking that would sell consoles. I don't know.
Well, interestingly, Sony has sold the console with collections and up-res ports from PS3, and they've sold really well.
But out the gate, like that being the big launch thing. Yes. Oh, really? Okay, all right. Well, so is it like new people just getting on board that didn't get those in the first place and are finally going, oh well, that sounds like fun, and finally it's a new system? Is that okay? All right.
So the PlayStation 4 launched with the main bundle was bundled with The Last of Us remastered, which was a critically acclaimed game last generation. I did not know that. I've heard it's really good. I haven't played it because I've never owned a PlayStation, but and they also put out a bundle with the Uncharted collection, which has the first 3 Uncharted games to get people ready for the new Uncharted game. Now, I think it would be very smart of them to offer a Mario bundle with Galaxy 1 and 2, and then put Galaxy 3 out later.
Yeah, that'd be smart.
Ready for them.
May I suggest this? And again, I don't know what I'm talking about, so just throwing crap out there.
Sure.
What if they launched that system with the next Mario Maker?
That'd be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Mario Maker ported to NX with...
Oh, yeah. No, you're almost certainly going to, because that's been a big selling point for them this year. I don't know how well they're doing, but I'm seeing a lot of people playing it. I mean, people are playing
Mario Maker got nominated for a lot of Game of the Year awards, too, so at the very least from the gaming press and among the gaming community, it's well recognized as a wonderful game. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that's not the game I would ship a bundle with. I think that's a cool thing that you get later on if you want to, because people I think might more want a 3D Mario game that's already made for them, that's challenging,
especially in trying to compete with the other systems, because what you're talking about is games that look casual versus games that look like big, expansive, deep, immersive kinds of games, right?
Right.
And that's where let's get into my question to you about what kinds of games they should be making. The $1 million question is: does Nintendo need to try to rebrand themselves as another company that will give you the adult M-rated games? Do they need to have exclusive M-rated games? Does that need to start happening? Because Wii U acted at the beginning like it was going to have more stuff like that for people that wanted more adult type games, but then, as you said, it was just too hard for third-party developers to make games for it. The problem
was just that the new systems came out and the third-party developers had new tech to work with, so they're like, oh, we can be more ambitious with the games we want to make. Why would make systems for old tech? I think Nintendo doesn't need to rebrand their company as a company that is making M-rated games. I mean, they don't need to make Metroid suddenly like bloody and gory.
Oh, I don't mean that. I just mean that they're not known as just the kiddie company, because I feel like they have that reputation right now.
They do, but they were not. But as you know, they were not always like that.
They were not always like that, but they have been.
Nintendo area. It was just a machine that played everything. I think that's what they need to be.
But yeah, but they have been for a really long time. Is the problem?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that they've been that even in your lifetime, right? I mean, like, Super Nintendo certainly had a lot of edgier stuff on it, but even by the time 64 is something too, but by the time you get a GameCube, they're the kiddie company.
Well, not necessarily, because GameCube had a lot of exclusives, like the port of Resident Evil 4.
Well, yeah, that's true.
They had to add some of the Metal Gear.
And there were some adult things on Wii here and there too, but they weren't known for that, and a lot of it was third party.
I feel like Nintendo always tries to launch, well, at least in the more recent generations, they always launch trying to be a console that has a game for everyone, just like the NES and the Super Nintendo was.
And then they evolve into.
And the problem with their kiddie reputation is just that that's kind of, they make all ages games, and then the third party support just drops off, and that's all that's on the system. Remember, Wii launched, one of its launch titles was Red Steel, a game that I played, a game where you just go around and slice people up with swords and stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not like they try to intentionally brand themselves that way. I think that's kind of just what happens by the market rejecting, or at least
I completely agree with that.
For their hardware.
They had, and I'm pretty sure this wasn't anywhere else, they had a really raunchy new House of the Dead title on the Wii.
Yes, they did.
That was really gruesome, and it had this Sam Jackson wannabe on it that just swore every other word, and it was not the sort of thing that you thought you'd play as a Wii exclusive. So yeah, I'm not saying that they haven't had it. I'm just saying that I think they're kind of known for that, and for whatever reason,
public perception is definitely in that direction for sure.
Yeah. So. And I'm of two minds on this because I don't know if the way for them to compete is to try to turn people away from the systems they already own, so much as it is just to make them feel like they need both. I mean, that's helped them a lot, right? Where it's like you can get a lot of the same sorts of things if you get an Xbox or a PlayStation, but there's this whole swath of stuff that they're not doing that you can get on Nintendo, so they don't need to get too far away from that because those systems have already sold a lot. They're going to have to get people that have already bought those to want the NX or whatever they end up calling it, right?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I think you're right that there's a issue with cannibalizing. The PS4 and the Xbox One have already outsold the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 at this time in their life cycles, and the PS4 is already outpacing the PS2, which is the best-selling console of all time. I mean, these systems are selling exponentially well, which means less space in the market for Nintendo.
Yeah.
And to your point, I think being the Me Too console, like the console that you want to own in addition to a PS4, this generation hasn't proven very lucrative for them. I mean, I think the people that have the Wii U as a Me Too console are most of the 10.7 million units that they've sold so far. I mean, I think there probably are families that bought a Wii U as an upgrade to the Wii and love it and play it and stuff, but I think that's mostly the Nintendo fan base, as demonstrated by the fact that Mario Kart has been bought by 50% of the people that own the console. At least half of the people that own that console have to be hardcore.
So you're saying that it didn't appeal to people that it didn't appeal to people that the Wii appealed to because it had a thing that you couldn't get any other way. I mean, it's so interesting how things have reversed, right? Where the Wii was a thing that people had to get because of the novelty of the motion control, and then toward the end of their lifespans, you saw both Xbox and PlayStation feel the need to try to compete with that, and now you got this complete opposite thing going on. Like, it's astounding that the Wii didn't need superior or even as good of software, right? In order to compete, because it had this thing that nobody else had, and it felt like you were in the future. I don't know that that's the. I don't know what they could do to get that same feeling again from people, where like, oh, I have to have this because there's nothing else like it, and it feels like. It feels like I'm, in the future. It feels like I'm in the 23rd century now. That's why people bought the Wii. It was like, it's like if somebody suddenly put out a holodeck. Everybody's going to go get that.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Wii sold a lot. The Xbox Kinect sold a lot. The PlayStation Move didn't do very well just because there wasn't really anything with that system of gameplay that anyone really wanted to play. But it's to the point now where I feel like the audience, the main audience of gamers, don't want to play with motion controls anymore. Yeah. Like, that's the sentiment, at least I hear, expressed in the gaming community. And I think PlayStation has proven that if you cater exclusively to the hardcore gaming community, it's going to sell you a lot of consoles. PlayStation 4 made a big deal about, look, we're going to be consumer gamer friendly. We're all about the gamers, the people that love just playing video games. We're not concentrating on the hardcore, on the casual audience like we did. That was kind of their mantra going into the PlayStation 4, and it's proved to be immeasurably successful. They're already outpacing the best-selling console of all time.
But the question is, are these companies potentially leaving money on the table now because nobody's doing what the Wii did, which was catered to casual? I mean, like, they are, in the sense that there are more, family-friendly, easily intuitive pick-up-and-play games for it, but it's only been appealing to the Nintendo fan base that has been there the whole time. It's you don't have grandmas and families that want their 5-year-olds to get to play video games going out and buying it, and I feel like the public, maybe I'm wrong because we're on the internet a lot and it's easy to lose your perspective, but have we maybe changed the public's perception now, where video games aren't for kids anymore? Really? Yeah. Has that changed?
That so much as that the casual audience has moved on to mobile games, and I think
that's a good point.
I think
and Facebook and stuff. Yeah.
I think that's why you're seeing Nintendo get into the mobile business, to try to capture that audience, because I've listened to a lot of gaming podcasts, and people that have been to Japan, live there, or immersed in that gaming community. Everyone in Japan plays games on their phones because it's a very cramped area. There's a lot of people on a small island there. There's not a lot of space. So a lot of people play mobile games, and that's where the casual audience has moved. And that would explain why 3DS sales have not lived up to the DS sales.
And why they haven't...
Because people can just play those games, the short games like Brain Age or similar sorts of things on their phone, a device that they already carry on them all the time. Why carry another device on you if you don't have to?
Well, and that also tells you why they haven't been putting out as many things that are more like educational software than they are video games, right? Because the DS had a lot of that stuff, and I bought some of it. Some of it was really cool. You had... you had games that were supposed to teach you foreign languages, and like you said, you had Brain Age. I would bet you money that one of the first things they do is they put Brain Age out for phones.
Wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
And that will be huge because they haven't. I mean, Brain Age had 2 games that were immensely successful. They have not forgotten about that, as evidenced by the fact that the Brain Age guy, the head, is one of the things that one of the weapons you can unlock and throw at people in Smash Brothers. Like, they've not forgotten about that.
Yeah. They're. I wouldn't be surprised if the new Smash Brothers, with all of its DLC, gets ported to the NX as well. This is a side note. I think
good point. Well, let me ask you this: is it possible that some of those old DS games might just get phone ports?
They might. It'd be very interesting to see how backwards compatible the system is with 3DS and Wii U games. But I think this to combat the the dwindling portable handheld gaming sales, at least in the hardware. I think this is kind of Nintendo saying, okay, we still want to be in the handheld business because the Game Boy is our most successful product of all time. This is a proven business model for us. We'll sell both
and
of them
Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. So I think going back, somewhat backtracking a little bit to launch software.
Yeah.
We talked about because I think this is pertinent. We talked a little bit online, and I think one of the things that they need to do is take some of their games and adapt them online to their marquee franchises and do something that people have wanted to see for the longest time. I think Metroid Prime could be a really big and competitive and wonderful online first-person shooter game. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. And also, I think Nintendo would be very smart to make a massive multiplayer online type Pokemon game, because that game is a really simple RPG. It's really fun to pick up and play. It's one of their best-selling franchises. I think it sells the most units when it comes out. Mario has outsold it over its lifespan because it's been around longer. But Pokemon is like their biggest cash cow and one of their most recognizable franchises worldwide. That game, I would what they need to do is they need to make it fully 3D. Get rid of the sprite handheld things that they've been doing for a long time. Innovate a little bit. And make it so that you can battle people online, your friends. I think that needs to happen. People have been talking about that happening since Red and Blue came out in the 90s. That's something people have wanted. I think adapting some of the core Nintendo franchises to an online space would be really smart, and I think that's what they should do.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because I just thought of this, and you're absolutely, that would be the big thing for Pokemon, and as you said, kind of a no-brainer. Really weird if they don't do some kind of an online thing where you can take your Pokemon and battle your friends. But let me ask you this: we talk, because I'm having deja vu because we have had some of this conversation before, and I keep feeling like it was on the channel, but I don't think much of it was anywhere. Let me ask you that, and if it was, sorry, but we're having to rework our space. Let me ask you this. You suggested in one of the conversations we had about this that that Nintendo is likely, with the NX, to take the amiibos and get into the toys to game market and make that, and just make the things that they have already, and then making new ones part of a new game, and then probably continue to be able to use them with other games. Let me ask you this question: would it not make sense? And you could do this with the amiibos, and you could make these amiibos, and that's why I prefaced this with that. Would it not make sense to do exactly what you're talking about, but have the Pokemons buyable physical objects?
Really
gotta catch them all. It just makes a lot of sense to me. Where you have 100 and however many of them there are.
There's 490 something like that.
Yeah, or however many they decided to make if they didn't want to do all of them right away. But I mean, they could, if it's not played out. And I'm not completely convinced that Toys to Game is done. That there aren't any more people that you can get, that you could get into the market. But I think we're getting close. I think having 5 or 6 or 10 of those at once is likely to flood it and kill it. But having a Pokemon one strikes me as maybe the one more that could survive past Lego Dimensions.
I think Nintendo in general is the only other company that can enter the space and do well. And the proof is in the pudding. Amiibos are one of the major profitable things for Nintendo. Which
is so bizarre, but people love their physical objects, and there haven't been, we talked about this on Recommends last week, there haven't, in Nintendo's lifetime, been enough toys, physical things that you can buy with those characters on them, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to a starvation in the market for these characters. I mean, they're so beloved and iconic. Video game players, even if they've moved on, they have an Xbox and PS4 now. They don't own a Wii U because Nintendo has kind of been has left them behind. They want to move on and play more ambitious games. These are some of the most beloved IPs, like Disney, Mickey Mouse level. Like everyone worldwide knows who Mario is. Everyone knows who Link is. Everyone knows who Pikachu is. Everyone knows who Samus is. So I think, you already have these amiibo in the houses of people who might not even own Wii U's. I think it speaks to how well there has to be people, if you look at the numbers for how well they've sold, there have to be people that are buying these just because they like Nintendo characters.
Yeah, and they're just toys to them. It doesn't matter what they do.
If you have an install base already of these toys that you sold to people, it's kind of a no-brainer to make a game where they're all mashed up together. Maybe make some kind of platforming game where you can just play as any Nintendo character like Mario Maker.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think people got excited about the skins with Mario Maker. I think the next step, obviously, is have a game where you're playing as the actual characters and they're not just skins, and they have their own properties and things that you can do to power them up and stuff. I don't think, Dan, that the software part of the Amiibos is anything like fully proven or developed yet. I mean,
no,
like
it's in
its infancy, right? We've not done much with it yet compared to.
Like, it's not even infancy. It's like still in the womb. It's
yeah. I mean, the potential for those is fantastic. And they've not done enough with it.
Amiibo functions with the Twilight Princess HD remake that's going to come out on Wii U, which I'm pretty excited about. And they're like, oh, it's going to have Amiibo functionality. And everyone's like, oh, man, maybe this is finally the game where it's going to be significant. And you know what the Amiibo does?
Uh-oh.
It restores hearts and arrows if you put a Zelda Amiibo on the gamepad. And there's rumors about the Wolf Link one that they're putting out. When the game comes out, they will unlock an extra dungeon that they're making specifically for it, which will be cool. But that seems very minimal to me. You don't really need to own any of them to, like... There's enough hearts and arrows in the game that you're not going to run out, you know?
And unlocking a dungeon, it's like that could have easily been DLC. It sounds like they're kind of scraping to figure out what to do with that, where it should feel like more of a toys to screen thing. It needs to be you get to add extra characters if you have that's what it needs to be, and that there's like stats built into it, and that kind of thing.
I think it would be so cool to have some kind of 3D adventure game in the style of like the Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64 collectathon sorts of games, where you can play as any of the Amiibo characters. Imagine a game like that where it's a adventure collectathon platform where you can play as Sonic, Mario, you can play as Samus, like Donkey Kong, you can play as any of these characters.
And then there would be a lot more of a reason to put out more of them of different franchises. Like, imagine putting out, and by the way, that should be an open world type thing. Imagine, and wouldn't it be cool if it was if it was sort of like I can't think of the name of it, the blocky game where you build levels. Minecraft. What if it was like Minecraft and it was a game where people made their own levels and built onto a world that was online and everybody played it at the same time, and then you had all these different. I guess the thing that would be weird about that, of course, is that everybody would be playing a bunch of the same characters running around unless they had Mii's. But I don't know. But I'm just spinning my wheels. But what if you had a more of a reason to then put out like a lot more of the Sonic characters, and stuff like that. Like it'd be that'd be really cool. And since Sonic is in a place right now where once again, like it was in the mid 2000s, people just aren't real excited about the games they're putting out, and they put out some pretty bad ones lately. What if we finally did? And I said this on a Captain's Log a couple weeks ago about Sonic. What if we finally did the real Sonic versus Mario game? I don't know if that should be a 3D thing. I don't know if it should be a 2D thing. Dan, they launched the NX with the Sonic versus Mario platformer, and it's done. Game over.
I was going to mention that you brought up Sonic. It's Sonic's anniversary in 2016 as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I did that Captain's Log about. They've been hush hush about it, but it sounds like there's going to be some kind of anniversary game, but we don't know what it is yet.
It would be very interesting to me because Sega and Nintendo have been so close with the Sonic development lately. Like the Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric game, which was awful, was a Wii U exclusive, and Sonic Lost World was an exclusive, and that was a 2-game deal, so it's kind of done now. But it'd be interesting to me if they make this Sonic anniversary game and it's good, and they put that out as a launch title for NX. I think that would, if it got good word of mouth, Sonic is a franchise that people want to like too.
Yeah, but the tough thing with that, of course, is that it's been so hit and miss in a long time that title would have to get like 9.5s and 10s to sell that console. But if it did,
I think that could drive sales.
If they made it as, if they innovated like Galaxy, and I don't mean make another Sonic game that looks like Mario Galaxy, I mean make a new thing.
that is as innovative as Mario.
Precisely. If you did that, what kind of coup would it be if after the Wii U barely sold better than the Dreamcast, which still makes me feel like Gallagher just hit me in the head with a sledgehammer, because it's bizarre. Wouldn't it be a really crazy coup if Nintendo and Sega combining forces saves the Nintendo console after it barely even outpaced the Dreamcast? And what's funny about all that too is that they're apparently putting out a limited edition new Dreamcast. It's supposed to be HD and go online, or I don't know if it goes online, but it's supposed to be HD.
Well, the original Dreamcast had online.
It did. No, I know it did. But it's supposed to be like this this updated Dreamcast that I guess is supposed to play all the old Dreamcast games. I don't know what else it does, but it's like this really limited edition thing. But it's so weird to me that people love Dreamcast so much. They feel like Sega feels like they can make some money putting that old console back out, and the Wii U is just barely sold as well as it just now.
Yeah, this is sort of off topic, but have you noticed that I went to a write-up the other day, and they're selling new Sega Genesis. Like, Sega's putting out new Genesis systems, and like they had Game Gears. It's like Sega's just manufacturing old hardware and putting it in stores. It was strange, but I
mean, I knew there were a lot of plug and play things, but I didn't know that Sega themselves was putting. That's weird. And there is a portable Genesis right now with a bunch of
I saw that at the store
preloaded games. But and obviously Sega has to sign off on all that because it says Genesis and stuff. But I didn't realize they were just releasing old hardware.
There was just a Genesis in a box at the store, and there was like 3 of them. I was like, this is very strange. But anyway,
they should put some of their games back in print.
Yeah, they should. That'd be awesome.
Because some of those are getting really hard to find. It would drive down the. I mean, this would annoy collectors, but it would probably drive down the price of some of the collectible games too, and that would make it easier to get your hands on those again.
That's true.
But anyway.
So the NX is obviously the big topic here, but I'd also like to talk a little bit about the other aspects of the big part of the company, because I think
sure.
The new president wanting to increase profits at $855 million makes me think that this is going to be a multi-pronged attack to try to retake parts.
Yeah, you don't say that if you don't have a plan. Like that does not sound like an arbitrary number to me. He's like, what we want to do is this. Well, yes, in a perfect world, getting 4 times your profit would be awesome. But what are you doing? Like
exactly. There have been buzz about Nintendo characters being adapted into film to some degree. In the Sony Hacky Mail, we saw Avi Arad met with Shigeru Miyamoto. There was a negotiation to try to get Sony to develop a Mario movie, an animated movie. I think, and there's been rumors about Netflix trying to get a Zelda show made. I think Nintendo is going to try to put their characters in film or TV to some degree. I think that's going to happen.
I feel like I read something the other day where they just came right out and said that they really wanted to do that. So, I mean, like, that's almost not even rumor. I don't even think that's rumor at this point. Like, I think that's just in their plan.
Yeah, I think that's something that we're going to see. They obviously signed the deal with Universal to do the theme park attractions, which I'm really excited about. I hope they do that at the Florida one, especially since I don't know when the Universal deal with Marvel will expire, but Disney owns Marvel now, so I imagine they're going to want to get all the Marvel attractions out of Universal's parks and put them in, not lift them out, obviously, but have Universal not be able to do the Marvel thing anymore, and maybe Nintendo will replace it. I don't know, but I think merchandising, TV and film, and theme park attractions. I think Nintendo's going to try to become the Disney of video games, and I think that's very smart of them.
And I think they can. I mean, like Vince and I really early on in GNN did a video asking, or trying to answer the question if Mario, or if Mario was more popular now, and not popular, but more recognized now than Mickey Mouse, and I actually think that's maybe less true now, just because Disney has made such a big splash in the last few years with things they've been buying up, that I think somehow rather Mickey Mouse has weirdly kind of been back in front of people again. But it was a thing to ask, and I think the idea of the Disney of video games makes perfect sense because, again, known as the family-friendly company. and they've just got that kind of clout. I mean, I think that makes perfect sense. It sounds to me like at least with they're failing with some with the Wii U, that the consumers are ultimately maybe going to benefit a little bit from the fact that happened. I mean, you hope they pull out of it, but then maybe they wouldn't have spread their tendrils into so many other places that, frankly, a lot of fans have been wanting to see for 20 years, right? I mean, like people, it is a shame and kind of a crime that there's not a long-running Mario comic book like there is Sonic. There's stuff that they've got that could be as cool or cooler, and
in the late 80s,
where is it?
There were those things. There were Mario comic books. There was a Mario animated series. There was a Zelda animated series. There were Zelda comic books, and they just stopped after the Mario.
That movie just killed it. Yeah.
And I think it's very smart of them to re-enter those things, obviously, because, the only thing Zelda's my favorite Nintendo thing, and the only, adaptation that's in film is that crappy animated series that they made. And IGN, one year, they made for April Fool's Day, they made a trailer for a Legend of Zelda movie and put it on their website, and I was really young and impressionable when they put it out, and I was very excited about the movie, and then the next day I found out it was fake. And I was very sad. But I really want these characters to come into, especially live action. Now, I think it's worth discussing which one would be the most applicable and the best, would make the best movie. I think Zelda's a little tough because Link's a character that's mute. He doesn't really have a character, and a lot of people are leery about seeing a character other than what they project on themselves on that character. And it's kind of, I think the high fantasy thing would sell if they made a good movie, obviously. But I think Metroid would make the best movie.
Yeah, I do too. I don't know. I mean, I realize that among gamers that's a really popular property, but I don't know how well it would sell as a movie. I just don't know.
I think in this day and age, dark science fiction with a female lead would sell. I think that would do really well.
Yeah, my worry is that it looks so much like a bunch of other things that have gotten popular after it that it might not stand out real well.
Yeah, I mean, it would obviously depend on how good it is and
sure.
What the word of mouth against
and how well they
throw behind it, obviously.
Yeah, I think a thing like that has to be good enough that the criticism is super obnoxiously positive out the gate, because I think everybody's going to be leery of any kind of a video game movie that Nintendo puts out, because video game movies are just, known as not being very good, and there haven't been a lot of great ones. Nintendo putting out the first, really, really critically acclaimed video game movie would be a big deal for them.
Well, and I think we're about to get the video game movie renaissance, because the Assassin's Creed movie's coming out. Michael Fassbender's the main character in that. There's a lot of good buzz about the production of that. And recently, Activision created a movie studio like Marvel at their company for Activision Blizzard properties. They have the Warcraft movie coming out, and they've already announced they're going to be doing Call of Duty movies. So big players in the business are already creating movie studios like Marvel. Like, the Call of Duty movies are going to be a cinematic universe, too, they announced. So they're going to be putting out multiple movies. I think Nintendo should ride this train if that's the way the market's going.
Yeah, I think so, too.
They have the most iconic properties in video games. Like,
the tough thing is,
a Call of Duty movie would do well because it has a big name attached to it, but what is Call of Duty other than just another war movie?
That's where I'm at with it, yeah. That's a simulator.
Yeah, exactly. But Nintendo's properties are unique enough, especially with Mario. I mean, Zelda and Metroid are like high fantasy and dark science fiction.
And people
Mario's
are just
unique.
And people are just really, I mean, that's a hard thing if you've never seen Mario to describe to people.
Yeah.
It's clearly it's like a fantasy adventure thing, but it's so rare to have a series where you have a character that is in just the regular world with a normal person job, and then he winds up in this weird fantasy land. I mean, he's basically like Alice in Wonderland or something, I guess. The closest thing that I could point to, or like Wizard of Oz or something. So I mean, there's some kind of children's literary but weird things, you know what I mean, that that are evoked when you play Mario, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, and I think if you gave that to the right animated studio, that would make a wonderful all ages family movie.
I think so too. Yeah. Well, and I would say go to make it something like a Pixar movie and get people that have a lot of experience in 3D animation to do a thing like that. The trouble with a lot of their properties is exactly what you're alluding to right now, which is I don't know how many more of them you'd even want to do in live action. I think we should be careful to not give everything live action treatment, because I don't think it all makes sense. I'm not saying you can't make a good live action Mario movie, but I gotta be honest with you, I can't get excited about that. And it's not just because I saw a bad one. It's because in order to make that, to really do that expanded world justice and make it look as stylized and cartoony and weird as it is, it's gonna need a whole lot of CG. Why put a real person in it? Why do I even need to see that? I don't know. I'm afraid that what you'd end up with would be Green Lantern all over again. Like
live action treatments.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I think Zelda and Metroid are the only ones that lend themselves to live-action treatments, really, that I can think of.
At all,
Star Fox, that's kind of a weird
going to be an animated thing?
Donkey Kong, no.
No,
Like, all the other ones are kind of so cartoony, and I think, a CG Donkey Kong Country movie would be awesome. I'd love to see that. I mean, we kind of got that with the TV show, but the scripts were bad. Just take that, make the animation a little better, and get a good, someone write a good script, and that'd be great. And if nobody will greenlight it at the movie studios, a Netflix show would be other best case scenario, or a Netflix original movie. I was really hoping that Zelda Netflix deal was going to go through, but the Nintendo people said there was no truth to the rumor. Who knows if they're just trying to cover things up or whatever. But
weird, yeah. Well, it was weird how much traction that got if there was nothing behind it. So I don't totally buy that.
I was feeling there were talks.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, final thoughts, because we've been at this a while, and I'm sure we'll probably revisit this down the line as things develop. But
yeah, definitely.
But I don't know. What are your final thoughts, real quick?
Well, I think another thing to explore, maybe at another time, is the eventuality, like, what if Nintendo has to drop out of the hardware manufacturing business?
I mentioned that at the beginning, and we just didn't quite get to it, but yeah, you're right. Obviously, they would survive, and we've talked about this before. Again, I can't remember if it was on camera, about the fact that it would be nice for consumers to be able to buy, Mario games and Donkey Kong games and things like that for the systems they already have, because there are all kinds of people that can't get excited about Nintendo hardware that would totally buy that stuff. But at the same time, there's that lack of innovation that would probably happen, and things could stagnate a little bit just because Nintendo has always been coming up with crazy new, interesting ideas with hardware and stuff. So, you'd hate to see that happen. I don't think it would be the same fate that Sega has had.
No, definitely not. I mean, the one really iconic property that Sega had was Sonic. I mean, not that and none of their other games were good, but that was the one that resonated with, the larger culture outside of just gamers. Right?
That's the one Sonic. That was really the household name. There were other things. You're right, and Genesis had all kinds of exclusives that sold really well and stuff. You had well, actually, no. That
Max,
I was going to say, actually, I almost said Earthworm Jim, but that wasn't exclusive. That was on both. But
there was like Golden Axe and like other games like that. I remember.
You had Shinobi. You had, I think Shinobi was a Genesis thing. You had.
I'm not sure. I'm not all that familiar with the Genesis library, to be honest with you. But
you had, obviously Virtua Fighter is one of my favorite things, and they have put that on other systems, and it's been a while. But and these days they have Monkey Ball, but I don't think that they had that on a console before. I think that came later.
I think in that eventuality, Nintendo is left with much more development talent than Sega had after their hardware business collapsed. And I think if they got out of the hardware business, it would leave them up to just concentrate exclusively on software development, and they might be able to invest all their money in that and make more Mario, Zelda, Metroid games. Like maybe some of the other franchises could come back, like F-Zero. Make some Star Fox games. I mean, who knows? I don't think that would be the worst eventuality in the world. But to be honest with you, if I could own one, I'm a big Xbox fan, but if I could own one system, I'd want a Nintendo system. Like they are my company. I want to love Nintendo. It's just their products, and I like my Wii U for what it is. I don't want to say like I dislike the system, but it's clearly deficient compared to my Xbox, and I paid just about the same price for both of them.
Yeah. For me, it just came down to this is the system that has the games I want to play. So
exactly.
The library
That's why I wanted to. Like,
has
Zelda's
been
my favorite gaming IP. I gotta have that.
Yeah, I mean the library, because of the lack of third-party support and stuff, has been small. But the nice thing is the percentage of good games to bad games has been, I mean, there's more good games on that system than bad games, so that's good. So I mean, I own probably as many Wii U games already as I do Wii, because a lot of the things they put out I felt the need to buy. So I mean, I can say that for it, but it's not the system so much as it is just this is the only thing I can buy these games on. And obviously that was already the reason that you would have bought a Nintendo and a Super Nintendo, etc., etc. But then there are so many, going back to really most of those systems, so many specs that you could point to of here's what this has over other things that's dominating. Super Nintendo was always superior to Genesis in a lot of ways, and same thing with really even though it wasn't a disc-based thing, 64 the graphics look better than PS1 on nearly everything. I mean, like they just.
Interesting you say that. A lot of people would disagree, but.
Oh, well, that's okay. I found a lot of those things just impossible to play, but I think maybe it's just because they were making things that were kind of too ahead of their time, and they couldn't make it look good. And 64 was playing to its strengths, because I didn't play very much with PS1, and I never owned one. But the few things that I looked at on it, I was like, I can't even look at this game. So that's why I'm saying that. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the thing that I think is tough about the big distinction I see between the old Nintendo systems and the new ones is that even, I think this stopped really with 64, is you think about the games that are iconic on those systems, right? On the NES, you think of Mario, you think of Zelda, but you also think of things like Castlevania. You think of, on 64, you think of GoldenEye. You think of Perfect Dark. You think on Super Nintendo, you think of, Mortal Kombat and things like third-party games that people remember playing on those systems, and they become just as associated with the system itself.
And you think
of the Captain and Game Master cartoon, that's got Castlevania stuff in it, and that's not even a Nintendo property. They lost that third-party support, and that's hurt them.
Well, and you think about games that aren't immediately synonymous with that system because they were on multiple systems, especially when you look at Super Nintendo or Genesis, but you you think of that system because you looked at both and you weighed it and you knew which one had the super, and usually Super Nintendo had the games that were on both. It was better on Super Nintendo, nearly everything. There were obviously exceptions, certainly. One of the best platformers on the Genesis, weirdly, is the Disney Aladdin game, and there was one on Super Nintendo, but it's a totally different game, and it's not nearly as good. They had one of my favorite platformers, and it's got its problems, but was a Cool Spot, and Cool Spot was on both, but it sounded better on the Super Nintendo. Nearly everything sounded better on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And the list goes on. So you don't have. You're right. Past 64. Maybe there's GameCube stuff I'm not thinking of, but past 64...
There's GameCube stuff, but it's not as prevalent as...
I'm not thinking of as many things that you could get on multiple systems, but you had to have it on the Nintendo one. And then more recently, you just don't even think of third-party things that were on those systems except for really inferior, watered-down things just to try to sell the people that only bought that system and wanted to get to play Call of Duty on the cheap. And stuff like that.
I told you when we initially had this conversation, I was really disappointed when I got my Wii U. I had been waiting to buy Mass Effect 3 on the Wii U because I heard that was going to be on there. When the game came out, I was like, okay, I'm finally going to get a Nintendo system where I can play the big, expansive role-playing games I like, and that's going to be the system I buy. I bought Arkham Origins on that, too, and so little of those systems sold that the publishers, EA and Warner Brothers respectively, were like, well, there's not a market that it would be profitable for us to put the DLC for these games on the servers of Nintendo's online service, so we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And the Mass Effect 3 ending, a lot of people didn't like, and they fixed it with DLC, and I wasn't able to play that because, Nintendo didn't deliver us a product that, had third-party support. So, that was really upsetting to me. And that happened with a lot of games. So, it's just they need to fix these issues.
Yeah, it clearly had way different intentions and a different identity at the beginning than what it's turned into. And what it's turned into is kind of what the Wii was by the end of its life too, I think, as far as just what games you're buying for it, and I think honestly, Nintendo. This maybe goes without saying, but I think Nintendo expected Wii's library to be much bigger than it was, and Wii U's fits in your hand comparatively.
Yeah, I mean, Wii's library was large, but it was filled with what people called at the time shovelware, which is games that are worth shoveling into a fire and burning and never seeing again.
But
those mini game fests, it had wide support, but it wasn't good things for the most part. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was some good third party stuff that was developed exclusively for Wii that people like, but it wasn't the big marquee titles that you could get elsewhere.
Yeah, and then with Wii U, I'm also surprised that they haven't tried more off the beaten path, like adult type games, like Zombie U, which almost launched with it. It was really early, and that got really good reviews. People really liked it, and
yeah. They've been sort of trying, recently, a game I want to play that just came out, it's called Xenoblade Chronicles X. It's a large, expansive, open-world role-playing game with, Gundam robots in it. That's, the theme of the game, and it looks really cool. One of the characters from Smash Brothers, I forget his name, is from Xenoblade Chronicles, and that was a Wii exclusive, so it's a sequel, and it's aimed at a hardcore audience. I'm going to be interested to see how much it sold, but it's getting rave reviews. Critics are, nominating it for Game of the Year awards and things, so they're still sort of trying, but, it's just a matter of what support they can get, because Nintendo proper doesn't really make those kind of games.
Well, the last thing I want to throw out, this will be my final thoughts on this whole thing, is that Nintendo has always been a really good system for what we now call couch co-op, which is so weird to me because playing video games with someone else was always a given to me, like in the same room.
I know,
the
right?
fact that we have a phrase for that, I've had to learn the lingo, and personally, a lot of the time I think the lingo is stupid. That's called playing two-player, okay? I'm an old person apparently, but it's just Nintendo has always had, I'll get off my soapbox, Nintendo has always had, obviously a really good track record of games that you want to have a party to play. And one of the things that I think really helped the 64 was that it immediately had 4 plugins in the front. You'd never seen that before. There were things that, I think, even the NES, and I didn't know this when I was a kid, but I know the Super Nintendo had it. Even the NES, I think, had an adapter that you could get and put 4 controllers in. But I don't know what games even supported that. I don't know if there were very many at all. But anyway, when I'm trying to remember where I saw that on an AVGN video at one point, I was like, "What? That was a thing?" But anyway, so with Super Nintendo, maybe it was. I think it was NES. But anyway, so with blew my mind when I saw that. But so 64. You were talking about GoldenEye earlier, and in the Star Fox, and there were a lot of games with 4-player co-op. You have a big party and you invite people over, and every co-op. That's another piece of lingo that we didn't have when I was a kid. But playing together. But yeah, the whole couch thing. Nintendo has to make sure that they still are doing that. I think that's really important. I think even if they have really good online, they've got to make sure that they are still the family party type system. And one thing that I'm really hoping they do with the next system, especially if they're trying to make it a handheld system where there's a piece you can take with you, and boy, I hope that's not too gimmicky, because gimmicks have been a thing with them for the last 2 systems. If they're doing that, it really needs to be good enough hardware that you can just play the same game, and that it's not like some watered down minigame version of it or some other piece of it or whatever. Like what would really help them would be if a game that, I don't know if they can make this happen, but hardware wise, but is if a game that looks as good as my PS4 I can play in the car, because I have this other extension of it, that would be great. But the thing I'm really hoping that they're careful of is that it's not like the gamepad with the Wii U, which I like. I've got no problem with the gamepad, but if they have the portable component also be a controller, make sure you can buy more than one and that you can hook them in simultaneously and have multiple players at the same time that have one, because the other controllers that you have to use for a second player or more on the Wii U simply busted a lot. Like we talk about how great Nintendo hardware is. Having to hook stuff into Wii remotes, those things break down all the time. Like the Wii remotes.
They have, pro controllers, but they were like $60. I mean, they're expensive controllers.
Yeah, I guess I never got one of those, but and maybe those were okay. I don't know, but I mean,
I've heard they're very nice. I've never used one myself. I couldn't tell you.
But like the pro controllers, are they not a thing? Where I never got one. So is that like a wireless thing that you sync?
Yeah, it's wireless and syncs just like the PlayStation 4 controllers.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, well then at least they have that. But yeah, you're right, $60. But then that's how much controllers cost for all the other systems too. So whatever. I guess I can't complain about that too much. But all right. Well, I withdraw that slightly. But it would be really nice. It would have been really nice with Wii U. I'm not saying this would have saved the console, but if you could buy another gamepad and play at the same. Right. It's really dumb that you can't play with two gamepads. I just think that's ridiculous. And so I hope they fix that with the next one. What do you think, Dan? Do you think they'll have the gamepad thing where if it's also a portable console, that extra part of the console is still the controller? Will it be like that?
That's what the leaked patents look like, but it's a different design. It's like a regular controller, like my Xbox One you see here, but it's a little bit wider, and there's like a screen in the middle of it. And it's said that like there's nothing besides analog sticks, and the buttons will appear on the touchpad thing. I don't know if that's what the product is going to be at the end of the day. Like if that's the final design, they just file a patent with this controller design, and it's like new technology.
Can I impulsively right away say if you have to use the pad now for buttons, I don't like that.
Yeah, I potentially don't like that either. I mean. I've played a Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color emulator on my iPhone, and I didn't think I would like using the buttons on that there, and I thought it worked surprisingly well. So I think you can pull it off, but yeah,
I want to feel it. I want to be able to feel my because how do you? I guess you could do this with a touch screen, but it's like how do you have the difference between pressing it down real hard and pressing it the I don't know, the relative, touch where, you jump higher because you press down hard. Don't you want to be able to feel that?
Well, I don't know that a lot of games nowadays do that. I mean, to double jump, you just press it twice or...
no, that's true, but well, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it working potentially, but I'm with you. I like physical buttons more. I prefer them myself.
I feel like a lot of people wouldn't like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean... It'd be interesting. A lot of people reconciled it with mobile gaming, but again, if they're skewing towards a hardcore audience, you're speaking to a different market of people, so who knows?
Yeah.
The other equation in all this, will Nintendo fall behind in the virtual reality helmet race if that catches on?
Yeah.
Oculus Rift is going to be coming out soon. It's got a hefty price tag, but Microsoft is going to be partnering with them eventually, supposedly, to bring the headset to Xbox One later this year, I believe. Yeah. The PlayStation VR is launching, so if Nintendo puts out a console and the VR helmet catches on and becomes a new thing, they're behind the game again. So, I mean, that's a whole other discussion that virtual reality might be a good.
Yeah, and that Oculus Rift, that first launch, you'll get some people to buy that just for the novelty of getting to play it first. But if everybody already knows that it's going to come for Xbox, I'd figure that most people will wait on it. I don't know
if it's a done deal. Microsoft's going to partner with them or something. But it's already a PC thing, so I would imagine, they're already working with Microsoft to make it work in the operating system. It seems like a natural kind of thing to me. So
yeah. Well, anyway, I guess that's going to be it for us today. This is obviously a really expansive topic. We could, speculate forever. But
Nintendo's a fascinating company. One of my favorites.
Mine too.
Thanks so much.
Well, everybody, thanks so much for watching. We're interested to see your comments, so let us know what you think about what we've heard so far about the new console, where you think Nintendo's going, and what you think they need to do to kind of fix the financial issues that they're having right now. And in the meantime, I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan, reminding you to support your local comic book and or video game store.
Good job, Dan. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.